Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As promised, I made an updated version of my Fang of Critias Dark Lair deck. I had to think about this one very thoroughly, see what needed to be changed, especially now that the ban list is out. The format's changed entirely, and I figured, like, what would be the best ways to really bring this deck out? So, instead, like last format, I made a more consistent way of bringing out Mirror Force Dragon. But in this one, I kind of want to make a more consistent way of bringing out Doom Virus Dragon, because Doom Virus is particularly strong against Dark World, surprisingly. Dark World Danger. Yeah, like, it's just like, it's kind of, some would say it's a gamble, but it actually helps because, like, especially that we run DD Crow as one of our main hand traps, it can really do a lot. And plus, like, cards like Mirror Force, like, no one ever expects it. Like, when they declare an attack and try to crash into my Darkest Diabolos, gone. I also run, of course, the Eradicator, which is really good against Sky Striker, Pendulum, Ultra Guys, because, you want to get rid of cards that are like trap or spell heavy, So yeah, that's what we're getting into today, and let's get started. Okay, so starting off with this deck, you're still going to be running 3 copies of Lilith, Lady of Lament. This card is our primary key card of this deck. She searches out all your traps by attributing 1 dark monster, and it's a quick effect, by the way. And as I mentioned in the last video, as long as Lair of Darkness is out, you can actually tribute one of your opponent's monsters instead. Well, anyway, this is an effect that can't necessarily be Ash because she's basically Pantheism in a way. Well, Pantheism, yeah, that one does go to your hand, but in this case, it goes to the field. So you pick out 3 normal traps, reveal them to your opponent, and then he picks one at random, and you get to set that card to your side of the field. Of course, you can't activate it on the same turn, but that's okay. We're trying to get the cards we needed to fuse with our Fang of Critias. Of course, we have other traps that come in handy too, which I'll get to later on. Moving on, our primary Lair Searcher, Arma the Wicked Warden. This guy's our terraforming, but he also has a pretty cool effect on the field where you could attribute 1 dark monster. You could draw 1 card, and if you attribute 1 dark monster other than this card, you could add 1 dark monster with 2,000 or more defense. So it comes in handy. Now in this variation, I decided to bump down my Darkest Diabolos to 2 now instead of 3. Mainly because I don't want to see him in my hand quite as often. I kind of want to see my Fang of Critias in my traps a little bit more. But he's still good, he's still a great card. He's still one of my favorite boss monsters of all time. The fact that he cannot be targeted and cannot be tributed by my opponent. So, yeah. Definitely want to play the Darkest Diabolos. And he's easy to summon. You just tribute 1 dark monster you control. You can special summon him from your hand or your graveyard back to the side of the field. And it's just, yeah. But to go with that, we are going to be running 2 copies, of Armageddon Knight. One of the best cards in this deck, mainly because he pitches out any dark monster you choose. So it synergizes real well with Diabolos, Destrudo, Blackwing Steam the Cloak, Skarm even. So yeah, definitely a must. He acts as your 2nd and 3rd Foolish Burial. So you may as well just go ahead and give him a try, and yeah, see how you like him. For the single monsters, we're running, of course, Destrudo as I mentioned. Definitely a great card to help bring out Black Rose Dragon a lot faster. Got Blackwing Steam the Cloak, which synergizes also pretty well with Armageddon Knight, but you mainly use him to, tribute 1 dark monster, or tribute 1 monster, special summon him back from the grave, and he's a token generator as well, so once he leaves the field, you get to produce 1 Steam token, level 1, so definitely a great card to help you get into some really excellent link plays, so yeah. So like, usually my strategy with this is like, yeah, you summon Armageddon Knight, send Blackwing, tribute 1 monster on my opponent's side of the field, bring back Blackwing, make Wee Witch's Apprentice, produce a token to make Link Spider, and then easy Decode Talker right there. Moving on, we got Duke Shade, which acts as our Kaiju. You can tribute any number of dark monsters on the field, special summon this card, and this card gains 500 attack points for each monster that was tributed. Of course, we're going to be running 1 Tour Guide, standard. Gotta run it so you can bring out your Skarm or your Lilith, get into also easy Link plays. Speaking of which, we got Skarm. Huh. And he searches out Lilith, by the way, on the end phase. And we're only running 3 Hatchers, but of course I have 6 other ones on the side, which you can switch in between matches. But the main one I like to play is DD Crow because again, it synergizes so well with Doom Virus Dragon, so that you can get rid of problematic cards from your opponent's hand and then banish any ones that he could potentially bring back later. So DD Crow is definitely a great card to run. All right, so that's a total of 18 monsters in the main deck. So from here on out, it's just 22 spells and traps. So starting off, of course, you're going to be running 3 lairs. turns everything dark, and once per turn, if you were to tribute a monster to activate an effect, you could tribute one of your opponent's monsters instead. 3 Fang of Critias, because you want to see this card as quickly as you possibly can. So yeah, and you can fuse with pretty much almost every trap we have in this deck, which is Crush Card, Mirror Force, and Ring of Destruction. 2 Allure of Darkness now. I don't run it at 3 anymore. I just think 2 is enough. Mainly because like there are times I opened up with 2 of them and I didn't really want that. So yeah. 1 Monster Gate, which definitely helps you bleed out your deck a little faster. 1 Foolish Burial, and of course Monster Reborn, and that's it for the spells. No terraforming. I didn't find any need for it, so unlike the last one. So yeah, that's why I decided not to run it anymore, or at least not in this variation. So moving on to the traps, we got 3 Crush Card Viruses now instead of 3 Mirror Forces. Reason being is, like I said, you want to get Doom Virus out as quickly as you can, because Doom Virus has an amazing ability, and I'll explain to that in just a moment. 2 Mirror Forces. I'm sorry, not Mirror Force Dragons, but yeah, we do run that one too. But Mirror Force, again, no one expects it, and I just like to catch my opponents off guard, and yeah, just let them run into it. 2 Back to the Front still. To go with our virus cards, we're running, of course, 2 Mind Crushes. I figured that'd be a good choice especially in this format, because you want to get rid of your opponent's hand as quickly as you can. Because not every deck can perform the Extra Link, and you want to be able to get rid of your opponent's resources for those that can perform an Extra Link. So that's the reason for these virus cards and Mind Crush. 1 Eradicator, again, really powerful against Stun, Altergeist, and Sky Strikers, because like Stun and Altergeist, you mainly want to call traps. You can call spells too, because Moonir Shield's a thing, but they'll also try to hit you a lot with counter traps, continuous traps, and floodgates and all that stuff. And Altergeist is all nothing but floodgates, so you definitely want to get rid of their traps. With Sky Strikers, get rid of their spells. And finally, 1 Ring of Destruction. I know it's at 3, but for me, I'm kind of still okay with just running it at 1 in this deck, because this is not a chain burn deck or anything. It's just there just to become a Fang of Critias target if I need it. So that's pretty much it. Alright, so moving on to the extra deck. Running 2 copies of Doom Virus Dragon. When this card is summoned, special summoned, you get to look at your opponent's entire hand, destroy, and all monsters they control as well. Destroy all monsters, that have 1,500 or more attack points. And this effect will last for 3 full turns. So it doesn't matter if your opponent were to Ghost Ogre it, or if you were to get rid of it yourself with like Lilith's effect. This effect will resolve for 3 full turns. So Doom Virus is definitely an amazing card. The only problem with him is that he's not revivable, so that's why I decided to bump it up, kept it at 2 and all that. But yeah, you definitely want to get him out as quickly as you can, so that way you can start wiping out your opponent's resources. Next up for our Fang of Critias lineup, we got the 1 Mirror Force Dragon. Whenever your opponent targets a monster you control, if your opponent targets a monster you control or monsters by attack or card effects, you can basically wipe out their entire board. So my Mirror Force Dragon, definitely a must. And of course, we got the Destruction Dragon, which does one effect where you can once per turn destroy 1 card, and this targets, by the way, on your opponent's side of the field. And if it was a monster, your opponent takes damage equal to that monster's original attack. So that's why I kind of like to run this card a little bit more than Ring of Destruction by itself. But, he's a 3k brick wall, so it's really hard to get around it by attack. But, yeah, definitely a must. We're running 3 Xyz monsters. Of course, going to be running number 38, which is, again, good against Sky Strikers, steal away their spells. Or, like, even Invokers, try to get rid of that invocation. We got Heretic Sun Dragon, which tributes both from field and hand, so you could destroy any number of cards equal to the cards you tributed. So definitely a great card. 1 Exotonite, I still like to run it, so definitely a great card to try out. Might as well take advantage of it now that it's at 1, so yeah. For board-wise, just to get rid of anything that's a problem, Black Rose Dragon. Another great card to run is Beals. Not hard to make. You got Destrudo, which can easily make this card if you target one of your Torment tokens that you produce at the end of the turn with Lair of Darkness. So, yeah. As for links, we're running 1 Link Spider. Pretty standard because, tokens. 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice. Standard as well because everything is dark. Curious, which, You have multiple different types in this deck, so it's not hard to make this card at all. Should be fairly easy. I should not have any problems running Curious. Deco Talker. And of course, two of my favorite Link 4 monsters, Saryuja and Bomber Dragon. All standard choices, and I know Warlord's a great card, but I just prefer the Bomber Dragon out of all those cards, so yeah. I was just really happy when I pulled it from the Mega Tins, you know? Alright, so for the traps, or for the side deck, I'm sorry, in case if you don't like DD Crow, you can switch out with Drone Lockbird. Still an amazing hand trap to this format. Another great one is 3 Ash Blossoms. You know, definitely want to run those as well. These are just, you know, temporary options. But if you're just looking for like a low budget option, then DD Crow is probably gonna be your best one. Got 2 enemy controllers. You know, definitely helps because, you know, you get to tribute one of your opponent's monsters to take control of a monster with Lair of Darkness out being on board. So yeah. 2 Wall of Disruption. I still love this trap card. It's definitely a great card. So in case if I do decide to run some type of terraforming based card, I'm running 2 copies of Metaverse, which is searchable through Lilith. It's basically just a trap card version of terraforming. So like if my opponent were to like pop or banish my Lair of Darkness, I'll play Metaverse, bring out a new one. And another good card to deal with Floodgates is Heavy Storm Duster, set 3. So yeah, that's pretty much how I have this deck, you know. So hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll catch you guys again next time.